Take this, all of you, and eat of it, for this is my body, which will be given up for you.
The Gospel for the Chrism Mass takes us back to the synagogue at Nazareth.
And we are there once again with Jesus on the Sabbath, we along with the other people of Nazareth. And Jesus finds the passage in the scroll of Isaiah, which he uses to introduce himself and his mission to the synagogue. The Spirit of the Lord is upon him, and he is the Anointed One. His message is sketched in broad strokes to bring glad tidings to the poor, to proclaim liberty to captives, recovery of sight to the blind, letting the oppressed go free, and proclaiming a year acceptable to the Lord. There, in a few short sentences, he has told them who he is and proclaimed his gospel. That is it in a nutshell. And he rolls up the scroll and hands it to the minister who is there in attendance. Who might we say is this minister in attendance to whom Jesus gives the scroll? Who was sitting there so quietly, patiently, listening to the gospel, taking it all in, and then was entrusted with the task when Jesus had finished. Might we not say, brother priests, that we are that minister? He placed into our hands all that he said and all that he did. He accomplished the broad strokes, winning salvation for all people. And when he had finished, he placed the work into our hands for safekeeping and for sharing, to complete his work in all the myriad details of salvation in the lives of his people. St. Bede the Venerable writes, comparing it to the work of the church, Jesus opens the book and reads. He taught his church all truth. Having shut the book, he returned it to the minister, because all things were not to be said unto all, but he committed the word to the teacher to be dispensed according to the capacity of the hearers. We come to this Chrism Mass as Jesus' attendants, his ministers, his sacred ministers, his priests. Into our hands he has entrusted his work. As he did that day in the synagogue at Nazareth, he has once again today proclaimed his gospel message again in our hearing. And he has then handed it on to us, his priests, to continue opening it up for his people. At this Mass, we renew our priestly promises. And it's not a renewal in the sense that somehow our promises from last year's Chrism Mass are suddenly about to expire, and that we need to renew them to be able to continue practicing ministry, as if renewing a license that's about to expire. But renewal in the sense of refreshing ourselves and taking a look once again at our lifetime commitment so that we continue to grow in our priesthood, to renew ourselves, to refresh ourselves, to reinvigorate ourselves in our vocation as Jesus' priests. In that sense, renewal, reinvigoration. If we don't grow and mature, we die. The fruit on the vine that does not grow and mature shrivels up and eventually drops off the vine. So we are happy to renew and take a look again at our priestly promises, to refresh ourselves in our lifetime commitment. In the rite of priesthood ordination, there are 6 promises. Do you resolve to work with the bishop in caring for the Lord's flock? Do you resolve to worthily exercise the ministry of the Word, preaching the gospel and teaching the Catholic faith? Do you resolve to celebrate faithfully and reverently the mysteries of Christ, especially the sacrifice of the Eucharist and the sacrament of reconciliation? Do you resolve to pray without ceasing, to implore God's mercy for His people? Do you resolve to unite yourself to Christ and offer yourself for the salvation of all? Do you promise respect and obedience to the bishop and his successors? Jesus placed the scroll into the hands of the attendant in the synagogue. Jesus places his work of salvation into the hands of his sacred ministers. These days that are upon us now during this Holy Week are very busy days. I hope that you will have some time during these days to recollect yourself so that you can enter fully into the spirit of each liturgy of the Triduum and benefit spiritually in a personal way from the celebrations. I know from personal experience from my years as a pastor that may be hard to do because you usually have to be both the celebrant and the master of ceremonies of your own liturgies. And there's so much going on. But I will be remembering you in my prayers during these days, as I do every day throughout the entire year. May the Lord refresh us, renew us, and reinvigorate us